One of the first and perhaps the most prominent casualties of the political polarization that we see today has been Umar Khalid.
अगर आप इस वीडियो को देख रहे हैं, इसका ये मतलब है कि मुझे गिरफ्तार कर लिया गया है.
It has been 5 years that Umar has been languishing in prison under charges of UAPA, Unlawful Activities Prevention Act, for allegedly engineering or plotting the 2020 Delhi communal riots. And since then, the trial is yet to begin, and yet all the courts have denied him bail.
We have been waiting, we have been hoping, we have been looking forward, speculating our future. Our friends inside the court, inside the jail, as well as us outside the jail.
Right after he came out of JNU and was engaging with public politics, something that he was dealing with to a large extent was lynchings, hate crimes against Muslims. We know the spate of it from Akhlaq to Junaid. There were so many of them that were happening in Delhi, in UP, in Jharkhand and all of that. It was more or less around the same time when the CAA Qanun had come, and it completely constitutionally validated discrimination. The very foundations of the preamble was challenged. So the coming together of social media, the phenomena of trolls, the phenomena of what happens in the screen, which then does a jugalbandi with those blood-baying crowd waiting to lynch people actually physically being on the gates of the university.
Right from the beginning, he was the prime target because of his identity as a Muslim. Later that identity even layered because he became a fearless Muslim, educated, fearless youth, dissenting voice who refused to get silenced.
You have named it very interestingly. It's called making of an anti-national. So anti-national is a word which has become very common. Back in 2016 it wasn't.
If he uses a religious allegory or a religious reference or anything that is religious, anything that is Arabic, anything that is Urdu sounding, suddenly there's a discomfort even in the civil society progressive sections.
Why is Umar being targeted? Is Umar being targeted or Umar is at the center of this whole controversy because he's a Muslim, or because he's an avowed leftist also?
Like as if for a Muslim to be leftist, he has to completely shun his religious identity and then only he can become left. These experiences of waiting, clutching hope and letting go of hope and again being hopeful, because a lot of people in a lot of interviews have asked me that how can you still be hopeful? Like you have been rejected. How can you still believe in these institutions, in the court?
Hello and welcome to this edition of the Book Shook. Today I will be discussing a new book called Umar Khalid and His World, published by the Three Essays Collective. As we know, one of the first and perhaps the most prominent casualties of the political polarization that we see today has been Umar Khalid. It has been 5 years that Umar has been languishing in prison under charges of UAPA, Unlawful Activities Prevention Act, for allegedly engineering or plotting the 2020 Delhi communal riots. And since then, the trial is yet to begin, and yet all the courts have denied him bail, and including the Supreme Court's most recent order, which not only denied him bail, but also paused his ability to appeal against the order for at least a year. Many of us reasonably believe that the charges against Umar are not just trumped up, but are patently false, and he has been targeted for being overtly critical of the majoritarian policies of this government and against the prevailing Hindutva vigilantism that exists today. And he has not only raised his voice in support of the Muslims who have been victimized by the Hindutva forces, but also stood very firmly with those students, Dalits and Adivasis who have resisted the giant strides of the market-driven state and risk being displaced. Yet there is a huge populace who also believe that Umar is indeed a part of what we now know as Tukde Tukde gang, and that he actually had a role in engineering the Delhi 2020 Delhi communal riots. And these kind of, they have been convinced by the Indian big media and far right forces that Umar Khalid is out there to defame what is now a proud Hindu dominated India. And this is what has made Umar almost a villain in Indian media big stories. He has been called an urban Naxal, an anti-national, but first and foremost, he has been a target of both online and offline hate for his Muslim identity. Let us now see how his friends and Umar himself withstood these tremors that they have gone through over the last 5 years. Their lives have entirely changed, and now two of them, Banojyotsna Lahiri and Anirban Bhattacharya, and also Sudabrata Sengupta, these three have come up with a book. They've edited a book in which that captures these last 10 or 11 years of what Umar went through, what they went through, and what people thought about Umar and how people reacted. So we have them in our studio to discuss this book. Welcome Banojyotsna, welcome Anirban. I'll start with you, Banojyotsna. What was the idea behind the book?
So the book is called Umar Khalid and His World, right? Umar Khalid. So it's not focusing on Umar Khalid per se, but it's about the world and the times that, you know, have spawned around Umar, and we all are a part of that world. Of this world are the people who stood up against the CAA, who protested against the CAA. All of us protested against the CAA. People who, you know, watched as Delhi burned during the riots, people who tried to take relief. Then this case came, you know, the Delhi riots case was thrusted upon us, upon the citizens, and 18 of our fellow citizens were taken away from us. And then this long legal trial. Along with the legal trial, it's been 5 years. The trial has not started of this case. So what is going on is repeated court drama, different kinds of court drama, right? We have been waiting, we have been hoping, we have been like looking forward, speculating our future, our friends inside the court, inside the jail, as well as us outside the jail. This is the time when other movements have also taken place. The society is, you know, moving on. The world is moving on. It's becoming more vitriolic. It is becoming more vicious. The country is getting more and more polarized. We tried to capture somewhat this world, document this world, document all our journeys. But Umar definitely is in the center. So this book documents that journey of Umar, and that's the idea that we thought.
Yes, so the book looks, Banojyotsna, the book looks very comprehensive. It's divided into different sections, and it clearly shows that both of you and have such a long association that you have a fairly long memory of from where Umar started and where Umar has ended up. So how did you kind of frame the whole thing in different sections of the book?
So see, that is, the book indeed starts from 2016 when Umar, Anirban and some other JNU students were catapulted against their wishes, against all our consent or whatever. Suddenly JNU became a national news, and you know, the defaming of JNU and all that. And few individuals were catapulted to suddenly to public glare, I would say. There were people supporting, but as you said at the beginning, there were a lot of people who were, you know, defaming them also. So that started the lives of few ordinary citizens of the country very tumultuous. Life never was same or normal for us, especially for Umar. Right from the beginning, he was the prime target because of his identity as a Muslim. Later, that identity even led because he became a fearless Muslim, educated, fearless youth, dissenting voice who refused to get silenced. And that also increased the target. There were assassination attempts on him. Then there was, implicating him in this case. After he was one of the many faces of the anti-CAA protest. So, tracing Umar Khalid is actually tracing the journey of the opposition
Yes.
forces.
Also, I feel that tracing Umar Khalid in some way for many of us like journalists is also tracing how the Indian state itself, the BJP government here started in 2014 and it's 2025. It's almost running the Umar's incarceration, Umar's targeting is almost running parallel to how this government has also grown from strength to strength.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I would like to come to you, Anirban, that you were also one of those JNU students who were first targeted in 2016 when you, Umar, and Kanhaiya, all of these students were arrested, and there was a huge JNU movement, and you actually shared the prison cell with Umar for a brief time back in 2016. From then, and then all of you came out, and then 2020 riots happened, and then suddenly Umar became the central figure. How do you trace this period, 2016 to 2020, which you also have mentioned in the book?
So, as Banojyotsna was also saying, it's been 10 years even since 2016. When we started working on the book, what we felt, as she also mentioned, we felt it needs to archive this period because
everything begins from there, do you feel?
To a certain extent it does, but at the same point of time what is also important is that there was a pre-life before 2016 where what were we doing, what was it's not just about JNU, but what is the role of a public university and the role of students, because that time taxpayers' money and wastage of taxpayers' money, all of this thing was circulating a lot. What were we doing in campus? I mean, Umar could very well have gone abroad, looked after only his career as an individualist, as the market economy trains people these days in university spaces. But he felt that since I study with taxpayers' money, so many of us felt that we need to give back to the society. We need to speak about what ails this society. We were thinking individual, he was somebody who was trying to look for a better world. So in that sense it actually starts before 2016, and then 2016 comes, which kind of unmakes and remakes many things. But what I wanted to also say is that when we embarked upon this book, what we felt is all these things, 2016 remains very fresh in our mind maybe, but the story doesn't start right there. Its story starts even before. But the thing is that if we look at what is happening right now, young people right now who are looking into the media, who are looking at social media or learning about Umar, thing is that Umar's story, in a certain sense, all our stories do not start with the rejection of bail in January 2026. It doesn't even start in 2018 when the two gunmen came to attack Umar. It doesn't even start with the time in 2016, but much before. And in that, we need to realize that even in this period when Modi came to power in 2014, when the JNU sedition case happened, people who are now going to college were in school. I mean, we need to retell this story, because otherwise people are having beginnings now. Many people are getting to know about Umar now. So for them, Umar is somebody in jail. But Umar didn't start being in jail. At least Umar had also went to jail before this. So this story of, it's very important, particularly for the younger audience, the younger readers, then they need to know what actually predates this, what went behind the making and the unmaking of the time. What went behind somebody coming out from a university becoming one of the most important voices of Shaheen Bagh, of course, along with many others. What brought him there? And then what got him into jail? Because, like I said, many of these people, I mean, 2016 may be fresh in our minds, but there were people who are undergrads now, who are getting into their early careers, who were very, very young at that point in time. So, this is very normal for them. Even for university spaces, the university spaces that we saw or what we did is completely changed. Things have been unmade. They need to made to feel, you know, what were the possibilities then, what was going on in Umar's mind before all of this happened, and the journey.
No, the university spaces, it started in 2016 when a union member was arrested, and today we are in a situation where all the 4 union members have been rusticated by the same university. So it's like the whole thing coming back to us again. But I'd like to, so the section 1 of this book, it has kind of you have named it very interestingly. It's called Making of an Anti-National. So anti-national is a word which has become very common. Back in 2016 it wasn't, and it has become very, and in fact so many of us, whenever we say anything which is non-conformist, we ourselves have started jokingly in a way trying to call ourselves also anti-national in a way, in good humor. But Umar has written an article which is called JNU is being destroyed so the geo model can succeed. So he calls it geo model. I remember your speech back then when you said Bech De, that's the Paytm model. OLX model, yes. So what is in this essay, and what is he trying to convey here?
So this book actually has essays written over the period of this time. This is, I mean, that is why one can also see the evolution of a person through this. This is a time when he wrote it right after all of this attack started and the unmaking had begun. In that, what he tries to say is that how a public university is being destroyed, peeled layer by layer. And in that, what he is trying to also reflect on is what was going on, what was in fact the corporate takeover, which is not just about the university, but if we think about it, like you said, this term itself was coined during that time. Right now we are so normalized with many things, but come to think of it, I think 2016 was one of the first times, in fact some of us had just joined social media. I think I joined social media months before this entire thing broke out. So the coming together of social media, the phenomena of trolls, the phenomena of what happens in the screen, which then does a jugalbandi with those blood-baying crowd waiting to lynch people actually physically being on the gates of the university, or even targeting Umar's sisters, Umar's parents, and all of that was going on during that time, plus the media. I think this combination was happening for the first time. This was a new thing for us to come to terms with, as to how a corporate sponsored, corporate fed mainstream media, of course with Times Now and all of that, which orchestrated that literally what can be called the media trial, plus the social media, and of course the police and the masses out on the streets, the lynch mob. This combination, I think, was being tested for the first time. In a certain sense, it was a laboratory, and that is why in fact he was trying to write about it, this how this entire JNU was turned into a laboratory, and all of this was unleashed against an university to completely change the very character of what public education meant. Public education meant taking from the society and giving back.
Speaking on or an advocacy for public education at that point of time, and many other issues that all of you picked up, made you what we know as anti-nationals perhaps. But yeah, this is what I want to ask you, Banojyotsna. The section 2 has a very interesting name called conflicted identities, which we have as journalists also we have grappled with, that why is Umar being targeted? Is Umar being targeted, or Umar is at the center of this whole controversy because he's a Muslim, or because he's he's an avowed leftist also, or who has constantly spoken in and stood steadfastly with the vulnerable population of India, be it the Adivasis of Bastar, or people who have resisted the militarization of Kashmir, or in the northeast. They have it's a long trajectory, and as students many of us have dealt with so many number of issues. We may have differences in our opinion, but we have a good space for conversation, and Umar, all of us who belong to that kind of space. So how do you see Umar currently, whether he himself, since you meet him very often, whether he himself has reflected on these kind of why is he being?
See, the thing is that when the three of them were arrested back in 2016, it was Umar who was targeted specially, saying that Umar is a member of, a sympathizer of Jaish-e-Mohammed. Umar had gone to Pakistan. Umar had, called UAE and other places to organize this meeting. It was only, he was singled out, and clearly because for his religion, for his identity. Because all these news were fake news, they turned out to be fake news, but none of the media channels retracted on their own. They had the impunity to talk about the only Muslim student, fake news of that kind, sitting in the mainstream media channel. Later on also, in a lot of way, obviously Umar's identity, which we saw in the 2020 riots in particular, when he stood up and spoke against CAA, he was once again singled out, well, not singled out, but the people who were arrested ultimately, most of them were Muslims, right? This constant targeting is there. But at the same time, there is also another conflict that we have tried to capture in this book. That conflict comes from the other side, comes from the progressive sections. That, can Umar be both Muslim and left? Right? Him being a leftist, him being a communist, him being a leftist person who upholds Marxism, does it mean that he has to forego on his Muslim identity? How a Muslim in today's India, where Muslims are the prime target because of their identity, irrespective of their political beliefs, whether you are a staunch leftist, an atheist, a believer, all of them are clubbed as Islamists. Yes. All of them are called terrorists, right? Right now, this case after UAPA, now they are very nonchalantly called terrorists, and compared with the like Times Now runs their photos along with all sorts of people who have been convicted of terror acts earlier, and they club them as terrorists. So how do you grapple with these conflicted identities? Now, for Umar is an unapologetic leftist, but he is also an unapologetic Muslim. He upholds, he doesn't want to whitewash either of the identities, but it's a difficult thing. The thing is that Hindu people coming from who are born in Hindu families, when they do left politics, when they say take part in puja or whatever, general people, which is like the upper caste or the middle class people, they look at it not as a bad thing. They say that he is trying to engage with the masses. The masses are religious, he is trying to engage with the masses. But when a Muslim person, leftist Muslim, there's an article here that why, by Umar, that why I, being a leftist, I praised Prophet Muhammad. If he uses a religious allegory or a religious reference or anything that is religious, anything that is Arabic, anything that is Urdu sounding, suddenly there's a discomfort even in the civil society progressive sections. Like as if for a Muslim to be leftist, he has to completely shun his religious identity and then only he can become leftist. Now this is a conflict that not just Umar but a lot of young Muslims of India are faced with. And that is something that Umar is also grappling with. I know that he is. He is reading up a lot on these things. In jail also he has been grappling, and I am hopefully some bigger monographs on all these questions will come from him. But yes, that is one very important sections we think of the book.
So, Anirban, now let's kind of move to this anti-CAA protests. Anti-CAA protests is also figures in this book. And what was Umar's role? What was your role? And what was the role of many other activists who were eventually arrested and now are out on bail? Only Sharjeel and Umar are not have not been given bail, but others were also, all of them, most of them were students. Most of them joined the world of activism during these protests, so much so that it was, for many observers, it was some kind of civil disobedience movement kind of a thing, which you have an essay also that by Betwa Sharma, that Umar's response was that it was a very satyagraha model of civil disobedience, which was later used by the police to vilify, and general mood around anti-CAA protest in the Indian big media was that of apathy or generally, and eventually it was criminalized also, and that led to the 2020 riots. Yes, yeah. So that was around that time when you guys were together doing these agitations. Could you tell us about those experiences at that point of time? What were you thinking? What was Umar thinking? What were Umar's speeches we have all heard? He was traveling and he was talking about the CAA. But what was your engagement as friends? What were your engagement with Umar?
So, like we were mentioning, the assassination attempt that had happened right before he submitted his, during his PhD submission around that time, right after he came out of JNU and was engaging with public politics, something that he was dealing with to a large extent was lynchings, hate crimes against Muslims. We know the spate of it from Akhlaq to Junaid. There were so many of them that were happening in Delhi, in UP, in Jharkhand and all of that. And so it was more or less around the same time when the CAA Qanun had come, and it completely constitutionally validated discrimination. The very foundations of the preamble was challenged. When after the attack on the brutal lathi charge in Jamia, once the women of Shaheen Bagh, the mothers, they occupied the street, and then the Shaheen Bagh agitation started brewing. What it transformed into in just a month's time, and I think Buno should also speak about this because she has also observed it very closely. All of us, in fact, were staying in Jamia that time. It was phenomenal, and Umar became an integral part of it, as did so many others. It spread, I mean, of course, it started in Shaheen Bagh, it spread across Delhi, it spread across India. And what Umar says that it was India's Tahrir Square movement, where he himself used to say that this is at this scale, a civil disobedience movement at this scale that is peaceful, that is creative, that is inclusive and inviting. I think that was the most important part. Every time, because it was in our vicinity, more in our almost at our backyard, every evening, any of the evenings when we would walk in there, it used to be a very inviting space. It never felt like, I am not part of this. So this, and it was not incidental, it was by design. And I think definitely what he felt, something, a marked shift in the discourse or the contours of how Muslims have asserted themselves in this country, he felt Shaheen Bagh was a watershed. Because till that time, even under the Congress regime, what he in fact speaks about it in the book, it was largely the leadership within the community who would be, who the Congress would deal with. And it's not that the masses would express themselves. It is through this layer of who would speak a certain language, and they would define that as secularism. It had a very limited sense. It would define everything in a very cultural domain and restrict it till there. What Shaheen Bagh did is to actually practice what citizenship means. When they recited the preambles in every, it almost became like the thing to do. In every protest, there will be multiple recitations of the preamble. So if Ambedkar said that, it is in practice that you claim citizenship, I think Shaheen Bagh was practicing that. And in that, actually, the masses, particularly the women who were right in front, the women who were leading it, I think it completely broke even the hierarchies within the community, the accepted hierarchy that the state worked with, that these are our agents and through them we will rule the community. And in a certain sense that really left a mark in him. And I as a continuity, I also feel that I just met him day before yesterday, and he still tries to theorize it. He is trying to think about his PhD on the Adivasis. He tries to think about what Teltumde talks about the Dalits in terms of them being the organic proletariat, and he tries to see that who are Muslims in this country. The vast sections, and this is something that I really agree with, in the vast sections of Muslims in this country are workers. They are, they have had historically a very material materiality in their living. Be it in the mills, be it in the clothing mills, be it in the leather industry, be it in the mechanics, be it in artisanship, all of this has been a very material living. So in that sense, what he tried to do is, what he's still trying to do is he's trying to understand what are the ramifications of this movement. Shaheen Bagh to ho gaya. We have moved on, but what are the lessons that it left?
So for many of journalists believe that aside from what anti-CAA protest was demanding immediately from the government, I think it also foregrounded the constitution as the basic framework of this country. So much so that constitution became an integral part of the conversations, and so much so that the opposition, which did not invoke constitution, made it their basic premise of 2024 elections. I think it all began from there. So but Banojyotsna, now come to this whole last 5-6 years, the jail life. How has it been for you, for Umar? Tell us, and does this book have any of those recollections, his experiential?
Yes, it has the entire case, like the trial. Before taken into custody, there is one section called taken into custody. Then there is one section called the trial, and there are a section which is like which is called prisoner number 626710, which is all Umar's writings from the jail. That is a compilation. But then there are also two sections called the wait and the mulaqat. So the mulaqat and the wait, these are the sections which actually talk about not just ours, other prisoners also, these experiences of, of waiting, clutching hope and letting go of hope, and again being hopeful, because a lot of people in a lot of interviews have asked me that how can you still be hopeful? Like, you have been rejected. How can you still believe in these institutions, in the court? So I have always said that as we wait for our friends to come back, and it's, I mean, I'll just correct one thing, that it's not just Umar and Sharjeel, a few others like Salim Malik, Khalid Saifi, they are also in
Khalid
Taslim.
Saifi is also,
Yeah, Taslim. So 5-6 people are still in custody, and till they are not coming out, and the others, like the 6 people who got bail, also got this year. They also spent 5 years.
they also spent 5
and
years.
languished 5 years. They have come out now, and 5-6 are yet to come out. As we wait for these friends of ours to come out, the only thing we can do is to hope. And the only thing we can do is to believe in these institutions, because we believed in democracy. When we were fighting, like you said, the anti-CAA movement was about constitution. It was not about discarding the constitution, it was about strengthening the constitution. So much so that constitution became the rallying point for other parties which never used to talk about constitution. So the fight for constitution is going on, and if I am fighting for the constitution, I have to believe in these institutions. So even if individual judges have rejected our hope, have rejected our the hope with which we looked forward, we still believe that these are the institutions which we need to fight, strengthen. We need to fight for them, and justice will come. So that is how the last 5 years have been. It's a roller coaster, of course. There have been absolute
Between the courts,
hopelessness.
jail, mulaqat, the wait,
Yeah.
as you said. But I wanted to ask, since you've been meeting him, and jail is a place where dyed when the wool kind of criminals are also there. It's filled with under trials. It's filled with other innocents also. How do other jail inmates perceive Umar, who is there in UAPA charges, which is an anti-terror law? How has been his interaction inside the jail with people, with authorities, with his fellow inmates?
See, I mean, say for example, in Shawshank Redemption, if you know one of the prison movies, inside the jail, everybody thinks that, everybody sympathizes with everybody, and everybody thinks that all of us are innocent, and all of us have been framed in some way or the other. So inside jail, there is some kind of solidarity always among inmates, among prisoners, because everybody is in the same situation. So that solidarity aside, jail is also not outside the society. The communalization, the viciousness, the poison that is brewing outside also has its reflection inside. Especially in certain watershed moments, when there is a terror attack, the Islamophobia within the jail also go up, And Umar also says that, I can hear whispers behind my back, people talking, or people coming and saying that वो आपके बारे में कुछ उल्टा सीधा बोल रहा था, because ultimately he is a terrorist inside the jail, but he is also a very Umar bhai who is a very loving person who talks to everybody, because he is a compulsive talker. So he talks to people, he helps people, because in jail, all of them, I think Sharjeel also, Khalid Saifi, all these people who can write in English, they have a different value inside jail, because they help people to write applications and all that, and those people inside jail are limited. So people come to him for help, people come for him for legal help also, because by now all of us have some idea of law, and we can, one of our lawyers tell me that ab वकालत ही कर लो ना, मतलब इतना कोर्ट में आते हो तो वैसे ही. So he also has an idea of law, so people come for. So those kind of bonds are also there. People understand. I get a lot of call from people who would come out and say that, हम उमर भाई के साथ थे, उसने मुझे बहुत हौसला दिया, he gave us a lot of strength and all that. So a lot of people after coming out of jail also keep in touch, asks about him. There are policemen also who had been incarcerated. After coming out, they are like, they have kept in touch with him and all that.
So, but he has read more than 200 books, Anirban. He was a public personality in the sense that he was a political activist who made it a point to go and show his solidarity in people's movements across India. And now he's been contained in one place. How has he responded to it?
So one thing, of course, like you mentioned, he has read more than 300 books. Something that he, in fact, told in one of the mulakats, jail mulakats, before the judgment, the last denial from the Supreme Court came out. He is saying that if it doesn't come through this time, I think now I am prepared to write. Like what I was trying to say a while back, that he is trying to synthesize things now. He has read, he has experienced. Now what he has read and what he has experienced, he is trying to put that together, and I think, like Buno said, he is going to write now. One thing, of course, is the time. Like I have mentioned this before, that in 2016 we were there like literally for a couple of weeks, and he was a very restless person. Like he would be like following news every day, what is happening, kal bail milega, parso bail milega, like that. Right now he is settled in a sense that there is a sense that he knows that he is playing a role in the historical arc, that right now his role is inside prison. But the thing is that many of them, be it Umar, Sharjeel, Khalid Bhai, even Gulfisha, all of them, I think they make meaning of the time that they spent inside jail only when we have conversations outside about things that they are passionate about, not about them per se, but why are they in jail, those injustices. The more the conversations, they live through our actions and our discussions, and that is why the book is also.
This book is a part of that process.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Bunno, how has been your experience speaking with Umar? How has he changed as a person in the last 5 years?
I mean, see, definitely, like he said, that the restlessness has settled down.
Subsided, yes.
Subsided. He has become much more calm now. And he still talks, plays cricket, all those things are there. But I think gradually all of us are grappling with the bigger picture. Like when we were for example 2022 or when 2022, when the High Court, we were arguing bail in the High Court, we were moving from one hearing to the other. I mean, that was life at that point of time. We just finished one hearing, looked forward to the other. Now we have entered the long haul. But we also have a date to look forward to. After 1 year, we'll apply for bail and all that. So that also calms us down. I mean, for Umar also. So the last piece of this book is a piece. It's a beautiful piece. It's an unpublished piece. It's an original piece in the book where he writes a letter to Rohit Vemula. Yeah. So it's the letter that he wrote around Rohit Vemula's 10 years of Rohit Vemula's martyrdom. And it is like where he is talking to Rohit from jail. He has accepted that I am in prison and I am speaking from incarceration. But even then, the dialogue should go on. And that is how he is now.
So, as finally, Banojyotsna, I would like to, because this book is already out and I can see such prominent people from academics to very senior journalists to civil society activists, all have contributed in solidarity. And as an editor of the book, and not just as Umar's friend, which one probably moved you or which ones probably moved you at this juncture? Of course, all these pieces you would have liked, and that's why you selected it. But at this moment in your life, which one did, like you spoke about Vemula, the same question to you, Anirban, and we'll end it at that.
I mean, I like a lot of pieces. Frankly speaking, it was a very difficult task for all three of us to choose the pieces. There were still many more pieces which were left out. And also, we kept prolonging the book because, newer pieces kept coming, newer circumstances changed. At some point of time, we also thought that maybe if we prolong this by a little bit more, maybe, who knows, Umar will join the book launch. That hope was also there. Then at some point we realized that, it is not about that end goal. It is also, like he said, archiving the journey. Personally speaking, there are very good pieces. I like all the pieces. The piece by Ajaz Ashraf is something that it really touches me. He also talks about this very difficult, it's in conflicting identities, like how to understand Umar Khalid, and that he wrote 5 years back, but it resonates very well. The prologue by Kunal Kamra is also very, written from heart. It's a very heartfelt piece by Kunal, written for a friend. Then Ramchandra Guha's article, definitely, which is both Ramchandra Guha and Rohan D'Souza, they have reviewed his PhD. So both the pieces are very good. Like, they are academically, they try to. Among Umar's writing, my favorite piece would be the one that came out in Outlook. That is one kind of a jail diary, and also Ranajit Guha's obituary. That is a very good piece.
Anirban?
I think two. One is common with Buno, which is Ajaz's piece that she spoke about. That really captures. It captures a very complicated thing in a really, really lucid language. The other, I feel, is an unpublished article over here, which is by Navsharan, where because there was a moment in the farmer struggle where the farmer struggle stood in solidarity with the political prisoners. And she tries to capture Shaheen Bagh and the farmer struggle, where the farmers had come to Shaheen Bagh in the December winter and put out a langar and stayed there for a month, and then the dadis of Shaheen Bagh went to the farmer struggle, and she really beautifully captures that moment. I think these two definitely, and I think the last one on the Rohit piece.
The letter to Rohit, yes.
There are some very important piece also, like Shuddha's piece. Shuddha's
Who's
piece,
the
the
Shuddha
tyranny
Brata?
of-
Yeah, that's something
Who's
that
also
came
an
in,
editor of the book, yes.
True.
Yeah. No tyrant can endure.
No tyrant can endure.
endure.
Yeah.
Yes.
Gautam Bhatia's piece also, it talks about the first bail judgment, but the thing is that it's a very weird thing that it's a first bail judgment. He analyzes it, and what he wrote stands for the last bail judgment also. So that way, it's very resonating. And pieces by Harsh and Apurvanand, they were also very nice. So we like all the pieces, so we don't want to actually discriminate. I mean, this choosing of the article, compilation, all that, it was like it was a difficult but enjoyable task. We also enjoyed, and we must also mention that the publisher Asad Zaidi, Nalini, and especially Saib Bilawal, these three people from 3SS Collective, they also they kept us on our toes and helped us a lot in the entire compilation and the introduction and all that.
No, so we'll end it at that, Banojyotsna and Anirban, and thank you for joining us. So, as editors of the book, it must have taken a great effort in compiling between different good pieces. So, as I was just seeing that both of you, and including Subhabrata, you have called this book a testament of friendship and an act of solidarity. But for me, this book is also a testament of struggles, of the courage and of the sheer will that Umar and his friends have displayed through all these years, and are still in a position where they see light at the end of perhaps the darkest tunnel that they have faced in their lives. So in spite of being in jail for so many years, Umar's writings are a voice of conscience, of resilience, and of those values that we seem to have forgotten in our fast-paced lives. And that is why this book should be read. Thank you for joining in. Keep logging into The Wire. Thank you.